Steve here at West Green. Welcome to part 2 of my J15 build. This is part 2 of the tender, because I'm starting to tender first. So I've got everything that's all soldered up. I fitted the handrails. It says to fit those. There's no handrail stanchions, it's just bent and goes into holes. So they're in. You do that so you can solder from the inside. This fits. Yeah, these are the coal sides. They're half etched. So I've bent that round on a dry run. You've got to file off. You've got to trim some of this. This is only the second Jim McGowan kit I've built. This is the first time I've had to file anything, but that's the nature. These are made over long, so you just have to bend them, put them in, offer them up, take a slight bit off there so they just fit. And that's okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to solder in the tender top. So what I've done is I've pushed the tender top as hard back on there, put a bit of solder on there, cut a piece off, fluxed it and just wiped it across so that really locks it in place. Now I can go along and tack solder all the side and join it all up. Okay, that's all soldered up. It's all done. That's all got to be cleaned off though. I'm just going to put the tender sides on and the drag beam. That's what it says. That's all the first page done. Okay, everything's soldered in. The top's on. These sides are in. The front drag beam's on. I'm now on to part 2 of the instructions. That's the side frames, which I've just cleaned up, and the rear buffer beam. So that's the next things I'm going to put on. Well, Ruby, at least I've got you as an audience, don't I? Yes! What about Silver Supermanium? Oh my goodness gracious me, Mr. Silver Supermanium, Station Master is West Green. Further in my tender, I started on page 2 of instructions. Page 2 is fitting the 2 sides in the back, so I've done that so far. I put the captive screws in there again, captive nuts are in that side. I put the bolts in, or screws, whatever you want to call them, 8BA, so at least I know they're there. Look, it's not too bad. It's not perfect, I know. Doesn't matter how hard I try. But it's very square. Anyway, I'll continue on. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in, there's 2 toolbox doors, which I've got out. I think that's part 14. There's a coal space which has got beading around it. It says 1, 2, 3 parts. So there's the toolbox doors. I'll leave that one. There's the front coal space. There's the beading, what goes around the outside and around the inside. So I'm going to put this on. I'll just sweat that around it and add that. So there's the coal door. There's the beading. I sweated that, holding it in place. Loads of flux. Dropped solder on. Cleaned it all off. Notice there's two small lugs there. And there's 2 small lugs there. So that fits in there. It'll be vertical when I solder it. So the coal front door, that's been soldered from behind. That's all cleaned up. What I've got to do now is on each side I've got to put these 2 doors. What I've done is I've actually just tinned them both, and I've tinned the doors. And what I did is the doors have got little handles on them, so I held them with some needle nose pliers, dabbed a bit of solder. I'm going to clean up the iron, make sure it's really clean, no solder on it, and then I'm going to put them on. I'll flux up the iron a bit, get some heat on it, and hopefully it's all going to solder. So far, Sunday, 29th March 2020. The tender's coming along really well. It's a very good kit. I put the coal space, I put the front of the coal space in. There's beading around it. I put, I don't know if you can see it. I put in 2 doors there and there. That's 2 doors. I've also put these in and the handrails. I just dropped those in, put some solder on the bottom, and then fluxed it and just so it's just attached to the top. Cut this off, soldered it, cleaned it all up. So I think I'm not going to do any more tonight. I'm pretty pleased with the result so far. Yeah. So this is, I'll make this the end of part 2, I think.